I'm Krista Richmond. I'm the Director of Education Services at Middle Temple. We try to run it as little as possible like an exam. So the idea is to test people on the 4 criteria which are published, which are broadly the same at all the 4 in. So it's intellectual ability, motivation, aptitude for advocacy and personal qualities. It's not meant to be a legal exam. It's not meant to be something they have prepared for. Remind yourselves of everything you've ever done to prepare yourselves for a career at the law. So, for example, if you've done mini pupilages, remind yourselves of all the ones you've done. Remind yourselves of the names of the people you've met. Think about why it is you want to come to the bar, so you've got a sensible answer to the question without being completely cliched, perhaps relating to other experiences you've done. It should be a bar rather than solicitor's firm because whatever your reason might be. Make sure you're familiar with anything that's going on in the world at the moment that has a legal component, because quite often there will be a question which relates to that. If you haven't got an informed view, if a question comes up, make sure you can demonstrate how you would approach the question. In other words, these are the issues that would arise, these are the questions I would need to have answered before I can come to a conclusion, those kind of things. So the panel can see how you think rather than what you have already thought about.
I'm Anna Williams and I'm a bar careers consultant at the University of Law. My first piece of advice is that you need to go into your interview and be confident. The panel is going to want a glimpse of what you're going to be like in front of clients, and clients will want to be confident in you, so you've got to exhibit that behaviour. I think you should spend time reflecting on your experiences and learn how they're going to be useful to you in the interview room. Think about the core skills that underlie those experiences or were developed through those experiences, and think about which of those core skills are going to be most useful to you in the interview room, which ones the panel are probably going to be most interested in, and use your experiences as vehicles to demonstrate that you have those skills or that you are in the process of acquiring them. Think about the purpose of barristers and the functions, the skills that they're deploying each and every day in their work. You will have learned about these, you will have observed them during your mini pupilages, and it may be that you can even think back to an anecdote or two from one of your mini pupilages to communicate that you understand what a barrister actually does and why you want to be doing it.
My name is Mark Herbert. I'm a QC at 5 Stone Buildings, which are a traditional chancery set in Lincoln's Inn. So far as students are concerned, what we are looking for is not to humiliate students, not to cross-examine students, not to find out students' weak qualities, but actually to try and encourage students to explain to us what their good qualities are. Our scholarships at Lincoln's Inn are judged against 5 published criteria. They are intellectual strength, motivation, teamwork, meaning leadership skills and teamwork, integrity, and articulacy. Now, of those, quite a lot of those are not easily judged in a 15-minute interview. But what we feel we can judge is a student's articulacy. What I think is interesting sometimes is a student who completely surprises you with an ability that you'd never have guessed without meeting them.
I'm Maria, I'm at the University of Law studying the BPTC, and I'm a Marchant Scholar from Lincoln's Inn.
I'm Sarah Tilley, I'm currently studying the bar course at the University of Law, and I'm a Lord Denning Scholar from Lincoln's Inn.
My name is Anahita Moradi. I'm also a BPTC student at the University of Law, and I'm a Prince of Wales Scholar at Gray's Inn.
I remember preparing for my interview by going through my CV and making sure I refreshed my memory on my experience, especially the older experience, and making sure I had something to say for every mini pupillage I did.
I think I tried to put myself in the position of the panelists and think about what would give them confidence that if they were to award me this funding, I would be a good investment.
I think I did exactly the same as you guys. I firstly looked at my CV and tried to really bring out what it is about the bar that, for me, is attractive. Another thing I did do is look at current political and legal affairs, because I just had a feeling that maybe in an interview that might be brought up.
One of the things I made sure to do was, with some of the work experience I did, the trials were ongoing, or there were judicial reviews that weren't going to be decided for some time, so I made sure I looked up what had happened in the end with those, so I could demonstrate an interest and follow through.
I just think I tried my best not to show the nerves, and I would give that advice to someone who is going into the interview process, is you really cannot understate the importance of confidence, because this is obviously a highly pressurized situation, but at the same time, being able to stay composed and not show your nerves under pressure is such an important skill at the bar.
I think it's very important, other than being confident, also to just enjoy the interview. It's great practice for prospective pupillage interviews, and that's what I try to remember.
I had a moment where I was absolutely sure I did not get that one. When my interest is in criminal law and family law, and a lot of my experience has been in that, and when they asked me about why, I talked a lot about my interest in dealing with very diverse people with lots of layers. And then one of the panel spent a good couple of minutes telling me I should be a solicitor. So at that point, I will admit I was a little bit concerned, but I think what they really were looking for was for me to come back, obviously show respect for the other profession, but explain very clearly why I knew I wanted to be a barrister. And I felt very confident in my response to that.
I had a similar experience, but in a different context. I went to SOAS and I studied, as part of my law degree, Hindu law, Islamic law and Chinese law. And in the interview I was asked about this, and in addition I was asked about anything I'd published in relation to those areas of customary law. And as I got into it, I got very passionate about it, and one of the members of the panel suggested that customary or religious law is not necessarily important in the UK, of course, because we've got case law and statute law, and that's what we go by. And at that point I took the same approach as you, and I defended the relevance of religion and custom in legal proceedings here. And there was a battle for about 5 minutes, but in the end they smiled and said, actually, we agree.
I felt that throughout the entire interview, I had no indication as to how the interview was going. I found the panel to be very pleasant, but very stoic. Everyone was very serious.
Yes.
And very much straight-faced, and I walked out thinking, I have no idea how that's gone. But I think the reality is, at the end of the day, they were just trying to be objective. I think my top tip would be not only to know your CV and your application inside out, but also to be able to speak to what you've learned from the experiences that you've gained, because I think that that shows the kind of level of analysis that is so important at the bar, and to really focus in on those key learnings that you've taken away.
I think another top tip I would definitely recommend is to be prepared for a panel of barristers who aren't from your area of interest or field of interest. The skills they're looking for are across the board, across the bar, and it's not something to worry about, but do be prepared.